Welcome to Field Ops Talk. Today we're going to do some training if you're working on the scenes area. Now, my name is Daryl Grubbs and I'll be functioning as the committee chairman. I'd like to explain the org chart to you. Now you may have that already and you have that sent to you by Mark. In the event there is the instructor, or excuse me, the incident commander, and then he'll break off into several areas. The one we're going to talk about today is ops. Now in ops, there's two branches to the field ops operation. One would be those who run the scenes, that's you, and the other is those who are running the calls. And so if you're running the scenes, there will be a position that will run that, and it'll divide twice, and then the actual scene leader. And that's you, and that's the one we want to talk to today. So with me is Mark and David, and they're going to go through various parts of that.
Okay, so everybody's going to show up at the day of the event, 700 hours, and you will be given a daily operations. You'll have a time chart, so we'll start at 7 and we'll just click right on down the list. Welcome. Everybody's going to meet in Hanson Auditorium, and we will meet for a picture. We will have a safety orientation, some role-specific orientations, and then we'll dismiss to the scenes for y'all to be able to set up. You will be assigned an actor or actors for your various scenarios, and then that's where you'll be able to get the equipment set up, and equipment will be delivered to your scenes by logistics. So there's a map. So in each of the scenes, scenarios, they have a little manual, and so in that there's a map. There's job descriptions for each of the scene leader, the scene manager, and the actor and their roles. And then there is individual scenarios for A, B, C, D, and E scenarios for each of the scenes. And let me give you a little cheat sheet if you need to know other locations to give people directions to something else. And then there's a demobilization plan. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So.
All right, so as far as the actual people that will be on the scene, there's going to be three main, I guess, divisions that you would actually be dealing with. You're going to have the scene leader, the scene manager, and you're also going to have actors. Now, the actual role and responsibility of the scene leader is actually going to be the one that actually will oversee everything all together. So how would you describe what exactly a scene leader needs to deal with?
So the scene leader is going to basically be the manager of that scene, or overall operations. They're going to make sure that the actors are properly prepared, that everything's ready on that scene. They're going to notify dispatch via radio that their scene is completed and it's ready for the type of call that they have. And then once the ambulance responds to their scene, they will be the one that's responsible for communicating with the mentor that's assigned to that particular crew to give them role-specific information for that particular scenario that they have.
So the scene leader themselves, they are responsible for this, but they also do have a scene manager. Do they have to do everything, or is this something that they can actually delegate some of the responsibility for?
So delegation is encouraged. So just like when you're running an ambulance call, if it's one person and you want to do it all, yeah, you can do it all, but it's a lot easier if you delegate some of that stuff out and let some other people help you get it done.
The actors. Now, per se, the actors, they're multiple actors. How exactly would you actually manage, let's say, 5 or 6 actors with just one scene leader and a manager?
So usually the way it's easily accomplished is to moulage a patient up for a specific injury and use that patient for, say, scenario A, injury, that patient will get treated, they'll get transported to the emergency room. They will then get the shuttle ride and they'll make their way back to that scene. In the meantime, the manager and the assistant can prep that scene and get it ready for the next call to be run, and use a separate actor that's moulaged for, say, scenario B. You do not have to go A, B, C, D in that order.
What do you mean by A, B, C,
So
D?
you have 5 scenarios,
Okay.
A, B, C, A through E. You can go A, and then you can go E, and then you can go B. Doesn't matter what order you play them in.
So as far as A, B, C, those are different types of patients and scenarios?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so some of them may be a little bit related based on the scene that's there, but some of them may be completely unrelated. So you may have a chest pain and a fall or something at one scene. So they may be completely unrelated.
So Mark, if you've gotten that patient ready, then how does dispatch find out that you have a scene that's open for an ambulance?
So you're going to call dispatch on the radio and notify them that you have a call.
What would you
50.
actually say?
So I've got, this is scene 4, give them the location and say, I've got a 30-year-old male patient that's fallen or whatever. So just the typical information that the dispatches want. So the other thing that the dispatch is doing is they are tracking each individual medic unit and which call they run. So if you're on Medic 1 and you run scenario 3A, then they know they're not going to send you on that call again. They're going to send you on 3B, or they're going to send you on.
It's a good time to address this. Now, if you actually have a patient that's actually ready and you're on scene and you're waiting, it could be an hour to 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It does not mean that they forgot about you. What it means is, of the available medic units, they have already ran that specific call already. So what's going to happen is they're waiting for another free ambulance that has not ran that specific call to actually be dispatched out. So you're not being forgotten about. That's just a part of the way this actually goes together.
Well, I think that's worthy of addressing, because there's another phenomenon sometimes where we have really efficient scene leaders and they'll want to bring all the ambulances to their scene, which is admirable but not helpful, because next thing you know they're all at your scene and Mark's scenes, will say, are sitting there with nothing to do.
Right.
And so I think a reasonable flow, we certainly want to give you some freedom to make this happen, but accumulating as many 4 scenes around you really isn't helpful. Run a scene as a transport, lay out your next scene, or have it called in. And so that's one thing I've noticed in the operations version. If we get too many ambulances at one spot, it creates its own problem. And David, I like your point, because scenes get nervous thinking someone's doing something wrong if they sit there for a while. But that's just the nature of the beast, because as in operations, I watch things kind of bunch up and then spread out and bunch up and spread out. And that's just how our day's just going to go. So, yeah.
And addressing another little point there, a lot of the scenes are actually very close together. If you have a medic unit that does show up, you do need to identify, whether it be the scene leader or the scene manager, you do need to identify who that mentor is and be sure they are on the right call.
Very good.
In the event that the wrong medic unit shows up at the wrong scene, which is actually, I'm not going to say it does not happen, because it will
has
happen.
happened.
It not only has it, but it will happen. So expect that to happen. You need to be able to identify that you have the wrong medic unit on your scene. Now,
Just tell dispatch and
exactly.
fire it up.
If we actually get to dispatch and talk to them and clear that up on your side, then it'll it'll alleviate other problems that may persist later on down the line, meaning that medic unit has already ran that call, and it's not necessarily that scene has not, that might not be the first time that they've showed up at that scene, but it could be a completely different call. So when you actually have a medic unit that shows up and says, well, we've already been here before, which call are you supposed to be running? And it's very important that you actually clarify that.
Another thing people are usually concerned with is scene safety. So
Correct.
we beat that into everybody's heads from day one. So everyone's job is to be a safety officer and to keep track of people. Take care of yourself, take care of your neighbor. It may be very, very warm, so you may need extra water. But if something happens that's going to cause a problem, just tell people to freeze and get it stopped. And you know, our first rule of the day is for everybody to stay safe and make sure that you know, the fake blood is the only blood we have on the scene. So
Well, Mark, what if it's real blood?
if it's real
So
blood,
who do I call first if I'm the scene
if it's
leader?
real blood, then let's let dispatch know. All accidents, any resources, we're going to go through dispatch and just say real world and get what you need there. Of course, we're going to provide the necessary first aid and get people taken care of as we need to.
So let me clarify. So if David is my supervisor of 9 scenes and someone's hurt and leaking or hurt and something's wrong, I don't go to David, I just call dispatch and say real world, this has happened.
So use our chain of command.
Okay,
And
so I
go
do
up-
call David.
Go up
I
the chain
say,
of command.
David, this
Yep.
has happened.
Yep.
And then David would talk to that branch leader, and then they call dispatch.
Yep.
Okay.
If it is an absolute emergency where there is a life threat, it is an absolute life threat, please do not hesitate to get on the radio and say Mayday. If it's something where somebody's cut their finger and they're not going to bleed to death, please call your supervisor, tell your scene leaders, tell your scene manager. They will actually talk to the division leaders, whoever they happen to be, of scenes, and then we'll get you whatever you need, whether it be a Band-Aid, maybe you need to actually be transported to the hospital to get some stitches. We can actually do that. And we do have medical staff.
Or a
on
visit from our
scene.
medical staff.
Yes.
Come to you.
Absolutely. So we've made this very streamlined, and we're trying to make this as safe as possible so we can have the maximum amount of enjoyment out of the whole deal.
So I guess that leaves us down to talking about wrapping up the day and getting out of there. We've got a demobilization plan. There will be a plan included in each of the notebooks on the scene. And assemble equipment, clean stuff up. You know the rule, always leave something better than you found it. All equipment goes back out to the sign, and then it's going to get picked up by HCC Logistics. So as long as somebody stays there with that until they get picked up. As soon as that equipment gets picked up, head back to the encampment building, and dinner will be served there. So if you want to see these ahead of time, I can email these out. You can come in and get them, but I'm going to make stuff available online and get stuff to all the scene leaders as we can.
So the biggest question that most people will have as far as scene leaders and scene managers is, what do I do about all my equipment? How do I get all this stuff? What type of moulage will I need? How are we addressing that? Is everything going to be taken care of?
So everything's going to be on the scene. So logistics is moving stuff, and you will, as we depart from our orientations to the scenes, we will have equipment there.
So there will be nothing you need to worry about. Show up. That's about it.
So I want to talk about radios. So who all would have a radio on the scene? Obviously, the scene leader will have one.
Yeah.
It could be the scene leader. It could be the scene manager.
Okay.
Again, the scene.
But there will be one radio, right?
Yeah, there will be one
One per
radio.
scene.
And the scene leader doesn't necessarily need to do everything. They are absolutely responsible for everything. So you definitely don't want to be the person that says, well, I don't really want to talk on the radio. Here's my 12-year-old. Here, you use the radio. But you can delegate any type of responsibility. You don't have to do it all. What you do need to be is responsible for it all, though. So,
Well, I just want to stress that we go up and down the chain of command appropriately. So if I need to talk to David, and you're a division lead, section leader, I'm actually going to talk to your supervisor to work to you, to work to a scene eventually. And the same with the scene, will work its way back up. And we found that incident command system just works excellent in these situations. And most of the time, your supervisor will solve all your problems. And it won't even go any further than that. So. All right, any other points for this you guys can think of? And we'll wrap
Well,
this up.
I think we just need to keep in mind that, you know, everything is real except the blood.
Yeah.
And we're here for the students, and we want to make it as realistic and as safe for the students and give them a good experience. And if we've done that, then we've made a successful day.
Okay, David?
well, thank you very much for participating. We hope you enjoy this as much as we enjoy it,
All right, very
if
good.
not more.
Well, that's the end of Field Ops Talk for today. And scene leaders, thanks for what you do.
be in charge of half the scenes, and the other one's going to be the other half. You have one specific division leader that you are supposed to report to. In the event that you cannot find your scene manager or your scene leader or your division chief, what you need to do is you actually would go to the next step above that. So beyond the division, I want to call it a division chief.
Go ahead. Why not?
We're going to call it a division chief. So in the event that you can't get a hold of your division chief, there's actually a operations level that will be in charge of those two divisions. That is the person that you would actually try and contact. So.
And we'll talk about that more on day of.
And that chart is usually
and
available to you.
We'll put some specific names in it day of.
Correct.
So that it's not just rough titles. It's specific individuals and stuff. So.
And inside your scene
So.
book will have all those phone numbers and contacts, and you'll know exactly who you need to try and contact in the event that you need.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I meant
More toilet paper.
There's a communication list in there too. So.
Very good.
All right.
So-
Any other points for this you guys can think of, and we'll wrap
Well,
this up.
I think we just need to keep in mind that everything is real except the blood,
Yeah.
and we're here for the students, and we want to make it as realistic and as safe for the students and give them a good experience. And if we've done that, then we've made a successful day.
Okay, David.
Oh, thank you very much for participating. We hope you enjoy this as much as we enjoy it,
All right. Very
if
good.
not more.
Well, that's the end of Field Ops Talk for today. And scene leaders, thanks for what you do.